Thanks so much, guys, for all your feedback, the comments, the likes, the shares. For my last video, Gamification Design versus Gamification Design. But it really looks like we hit something by talking about the school of thought, like we think about gamification should be, or what not should be, what gamification is actually. It's amazing. Here, have a look. I got a lot of feedback and comments on YouTube. Thanks so much. So YouTube always is one of the, on this platform there's not so much engagement, but now it was my best one so far. That's amazing. Thanks. I'll have a look on LinkedIn also. Some kind of comments. Most said that they would really appreciate it if we would do more English ones, so we will do that. And here, have a look on Facebook. A lot of interaction. Some of you asked if we could talk about, for example, Fritz Walter said that he would love to learn more about how we gamify the activity itself, not the results. So I'm really glad to do that, but I will do that. But this is really going into design, so into the how to conceptualize stuff. So it will be deep dive stuff. So I will prepare that, but we will do that. I think we will have a few shorter videos for short insights, and then I'm really looking forward to prepare a deep dive into the whole concept design of gamification like we do it. And then some also asked for how to gamify school. So how can we take a curriculum, whatever, and make gamification out of that, or gamify it, if we're not talking about just rewarding people. So I'm really looking forward to that also, because school is some kind of passion that I really would love to change. What's up, everybody? Roman Rackwitz here. Last video we talked about different schools of thought, and I introduced you to my school of thought, where I think that we should focus on the activity and try to avoid to focus on the event happening, the result happening after the activity, because then almost naturally we are only thinking about how can we provide some kind of points or rewards or whatever. And if we think about games, so I think a gamification designer always should try to avoid that kind of thinking, because we want to make the activity itself more engaging. And if you reward, even if it's the best reward system in the world, and if you reward an activity that's boring, the activity is still boring. You just have created a better reward system. That is already fine, no question about that, but it's not what gamification is all about, right? Why? Because games are never offering you a reward. Games are always focusing on the activity itself. They give you some kind of context, some kind of challenge, some kind of problem, a desired outcome perhaps, and now they provide you everything that you need to get started in the first place. But always in a way that's, let's call it, pleasingly frustrating. So it's not easy to progress. You will fail a lot. And only because you fail a lot, the game itself becomes so interesting. It becomes, only because of that, probably it becomes fulfilling at the end, because you finally overcame the challenges. You finally progressed. You finally realize what you have learned in order, or where you have to come, where you became better in order to progress. And so every game is only about learning, but we don't realize it as learning. Why? Because learning in a game is only some kind of material, or it's only a tool to solve a problem. It's never about the learning itself. And this is already the difference between games and schools. In schools, it's always about learning. So the end result, the goal is learning. And this really doesn't work. But if you have a better solution, if you have a, let's say, a great context, a mission, a meaning, a problem that you want to solve, and then I provide you with the perfect framework, within that you can try to solve the problem, suddenly learning becomes native, becomes much more human. And so this is, from my point of view, the responsibility for the teachers. And I'm teaching myself at universities. It's unfair to say that, because how school is designed, the structure. So you have to, they are telling you you have to take this kind of learning material, and your students have to know that at the end of the year they have to write a test, they get a grade, done. This whole system is so far away, it's on the opposite of how people are learning in games, that it's really difficult to do that. Nevertheless, we have to find ways to make that happen. And this is why I'm really happy or thankful that you asked the question how to gamify a classroom. And it's a complex topic, so I will definitely have to do more videos than just one. But I will try to figure it out and to get started with this one and to create some kind of structure around that. So first of all, I already said it, for me, learning is always, or learning materials are always or should be tools that you need in order to solve a problem. So how could that look like from a curriculum point of view, so from a teacher's point of view? The point is, at the end, gamification means to reverse engineering the science of fun. That's from my opinion. So what that means for you as a teacher, you take all the learning material that you have. Let's say you're teaching math. Okay? So then you have different kind of topics and milestones, whatever. And now we don't want to make it too complex. So I don't want to know all of them. Let's say you know that you have your curriculum, and you know, hey, there are 3 or 4 points or topics that are really, really important. These are the main topics. Or you know that if you have learned that kind of topics, if you know about these 3 or 4 main ones, the other topics are much easier to understand. So let's say it this way, whatever. So you choose, I don't know, let's say you choose 4 different kind of topics out of your curriculum, where you say, this is what I want them to know. I want them to know exactly how to multiply numbers, or how to whatever. And so you take these. Then you think, okay, now we have these 4 topics. Okay? Now you think about, okay, what kind of real life scenarios, or what kind of stories, or in what kind of situation could it be helpful to know exactly how to use these kind of methodologies in math. So the point is, it's really simple so far, because we know that students are always asked, why should I know that? Why does that help it? And if they don't ask you, they think about that. And let's go one step back. The point is, I think this is what's the difference between a game where you have some kind of identity, where you know why you are doing something, what's your role. And we don't have that in school so often. But this is exactly what creates identity. So think about your topics, 1, 2, 3, 4. If they are linear or not, I don't care. This is something that you have to figure out. If let's say, perhaps I can move from this to this, or can go this way, whatever. This is up to you. So now you think about these different kind of topics and think about, okay, what kind of person could have these problems? As an example, there's one teacher in the US who teaches the class called Physics for Future Presidents. So he's talking about physical phenomenons or physical topics, and always from a point of view of a president, the future US president of the United States of America. So let's say if we're talking about nuclear, so he's talking about weapons and about power, and probably about something else, I don't know. But you see what I mean is, by thinking about the US president, suddenly you have different kind of physics topics, topics from physics that are already interesting, and this way you can make a connection. He has even written a book about that. I really recommend to read it. It's fun, and I think it can give you some ideas. So now you have created that kind of, already some kind of, let's say, journey, because you have some kind of milestones. Where the beginning or the end is, that's up to you. So now, I told you the last time, what I don't want you to do is to make a curriculum and say, here's a topic, here's a topic, here's a topic, here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and every time you reach a topic, I will give you a reward. No, don't think about that. It's not about extrinsic rewarding. Instead, perhaps that's much more helpful for you, I want you to change perspective. So far, and that's almost always the case all over the world, we have an activity and then we have the event, finishing the activity. And then everyone thinks about, oh, that's the end. What can I give to you? The point is, from now on, I want you to think about the event as the beginning of the next one. Okay? Because how does that change something? The point is, if it's the end, you think about, okay, what can I give you as a reward, as a feedback, whatever. And even if you don't want to do it, immediately you're creating some kind of, because you want to make it looking nice or meaningful, you have some kind of points, whatever. And then the next time you get, again, you give points, and then suddenly the user has some kind of pattern in the mind, and he sees, okay, if I do something, I will get something. So what I want you to do is, from now on, if you think about the event after the first milestone as the starting point of the second, you're thinking about what kind of resources can I give to you. Now you have more power than before. You have more resources than before. And suddenly it's not a reward anymore, it's some kind of tool. You got a tool to solve the next challenge. And of course it should be not easy, or it should be depending on the first one perhaps, or becoming a little bit more complex. So the point is, it's always about humans want to progress. So you have to find a way that they feel they progress through your journey, okay? So first learning here, no, second learning. First one, take the topics and create a context around it. This is difficult, that's about your creativity. Of course, if you're teaching young students, it's different than if you're teaching adults. So, physics for future presidents is some kind of interesting story and context, or also for adults. If you're teaching, I don't know, students in the 5th, 4th, 3rd grade, perhaps it's more about once upon a time. It's about you, what you make out of that, and what your topic is, of course. But I really recommend to put a lot of time into that kind of effort, because as better your story is, as more native it is for the people, for the students to think about, oh, that's realistic, now I want to solve that. And what can I do to solve it? Give me materials, okay? So learning materials are always a tool to solve a challenge. So second learning, achievements, let's call it this way, achievements, events are the starting point not the end. Okay? Very important. I think so. It really helped me to change my perspective and not to think about rewards anymore. And even in some gamification project, avoiding extrinsic rewards totally. And that's the best case from my point of view that you can achieve as a gamification designer. Okay, so now we have the milestones. We have the topics. So that means the topics are focused always on the activities themselves. Okay? So you're not rewarding people for achieving the topics, for knowing the topics, but now the topics became the tool for the students to progress. How could you do that? So let's say we have these 4 topics. A possibility could be, let me take another color, is that you think about, okay, if there's someone totally new to the topic, totally new to your class, so what kind of knowledge does he have? What kind of skills does he have? And so on. So you have here 0, onboarding, first class, first lesson, whatever. And then you think about, okay, my idealistic student, my top student, my master student, after these 4 topics, so when he has learned them, after my class, after the year or whatever, where could he be? What would be his skills, his knowledge, and so on. And so then let's make it here. Then you have your master student. Okay? Onboarding, mastery, master. Let's call it mastery. So and suddenly you have a gap. You have a gap between knowing nothing and he's the master. And now it's on you to think about how can you, and that's the point, it's not about if the materials are really depending on each other, the different kind of topics. The point is the student has to feel that he's experiencing mastery, that he's becoming better in something. So why is that the case? Because every time when you progress, when you become better inside your brain, it's something like a little cliffhanger where you see, okay, what's the next thing? Now I have new skills. How to use that? What can I do now? I'm much more powerful now, and so on. It's a survival. It's an instinct of survival. And so how can you create a path to mastery within these topics for the student in order to progress? Yeah? And this is by making if the topics are much more difficult to learn, it's already some kind of increasing progress. But perhaps you combine them, so you make it more complex, or it's less time to solve something, and whatever. So it becomes a little bit more difficult. So I always would try to go for the more complex stuff than for the time pressure stuff, just as my personal opinion. And quality progress comes before quantity progress. I hope that if you know what I mean, that becomes clear. So now suddenly you have different kind of, let's say again, steps, okay? Here is someone who says, here I have no clue. Okay, that's step number one. I have no clue. He comes in, what's happening here? He's not triggered right now, and so on. So you have to set a trigger. Then he said, oh, I don't like it, perhaps. Or it's school, whatever. Here perhaps I don't know how to do that. For example. Okay, and so and here really is about, wow, I earned it. So you see the progress. Okay, just as an example, think about could the path to mastery look like? Perhaps we can make a video only about that kind of topic. So and this is for example here you know nothing, and then if you're here you know all the 4 topics. Okay. But the point is, you know the topics not because I teach it to you, but because you try to solve a challenge or to solve a problem, the context that I gave to you, where you have to use these learning materials as a tool to solve the problem. And if I can create it if I can build it or design it in a context that's progressing, I'm much better in creating an experience that's much more game-like. Okay, so far for this. And now, of course, you can break it down. You can even do that only for step 1, for example. And then step 2. And so you can break it down. Whatever. I always try to come up with the story first, or the bigger context, and then break it down. But you have this path to mastery for all the 4 together, and then within every little one, perhaps you have different paths to masteries. It depends on how granular you can go. So why would I do it like that? The point is, I think there are different kind of characteristics in games that we are missing in school. So one of them, for example, is principle of participation. That means people are doing something in a game and it has an impact. And so the next level or the reaction of the game is different than it would have been if I would have done something else. In school, if you answer a question right or wrong, the next question will come. So, or even if it's not the case, we don't realize that kind of principle of participation, this kind of impact. So if we have some kind of problem that I want to solve, and I can realize the impact, the progress, and with that kind of progress, suddenly a new question, a new challenge arises. Whatever, it becomes more obvious that I have some kind of impact. The next thing is individualized customization. Really amazing would it be, or is it? It's much more difficult. But if, let's say, this path to mastery, you can also draw it in another way. You can draw it in some kind of, perhaps, progress tree. We all know that from games. You're doing something, you unlock the next thing, you do that, suddenly you unlocked 2 possible new ways. And so it becomes much more individualized to yourself. You have the feeling that, hey, it's my way that I'm going. That means if you have, let's say, if I have topic 1, I could do only the milestone, the really most important thing of topic 1 in physics, or I could dig a little bit deeper to make that one topic much more powerful than if I would just look at the main components of the topic. You know what I mean? For example, so this way you help someone to realize that he can become specialized in something. And this is what I mean with individualized customization. This is the agency principle that we really always want to create in real life. Games are amazing in creating that, and we really need to create that also in school. The third thing is identity. Identity means that you have some kind of, or you know why you're doing that. So there's some kind of context behind that. We always ask the question, why should I learn that? School almost always fails to create that kind of identity for the students. And to be honest, I think if you have to start with anything, with anything, start with that. If you create some kind of context, if you give them a kind of meaning, you're always halfway through. Then they will figure it out for themselves, or most of the part for themselves. Okay, what can I do to be able to solve that kind of problem, because now they have the context. Because now it's the right time to give a little insight and how to trigger or how to get someone to do something. I think there are three very powerful triggers in learning so that people get started to learn. The first thing is curiosity. Build up curiosity. And there are some people who are amazing in telling stories to create curiosity. There are some teachers, very seldom, unfortunately, but some of them are building something in front of their desk and everything. How is that possible? And then they can explain it, or now it's, okay, try it out, find a way. That's also triggering. One of the most powerful trigger to get people to do something is actually relatedness. So peer-to-peer topics. That means, for example, if I ask someone to help me, he's much more likely to get started with something and to dig deeper into materials than if I don't need the help. So we always think that, or companies, for example, always create or want to create collaboration by introducing tools like wikis or intranets and whatever. That's bullshit. Collaboration never starts with the guy who has the knowledge, but always with the people asking for help. We are social mammals, that's natural. So create an environment where it's much more easier for people to realize, oh, I can do that, I want to do that, I don't know exactly how to do that, I'm specialized in that kind of skill, but I need the other one. Hey, who can help me? And I can offer my skill on the other side, whatever. But this is the point. If you improve the culture of asking for help, that's amazing. Teamwork. And some schools are already trying that out, and there are amazing results. And the third thing is, oh no, that was identity. So we have identity, we have individualized customization, and we have principle of participation. And if you look at what I have shown you here and think about these three elements, you realize that there's some kind of connection between them. Yeah, exactly. So it's really complex, the topic by itself. For example, there are three other structures that you can use. You can make it much more problem-solving orientated. So don't tell them about what they need to learn. In the best case, don't show them the books. Just tell them the story, tell them the context. Now trigger them to help you to solve it, whatever. Create curiosity, ask for help, whatever, and then let them go. I think it's amazing. And I know teachers are not educated to do that. I'm also teaching at universities, and it's really difficult for me too. But let them go. And the most amazing thing about that, and also for the teacher, the most difficult thing about that, is that we need to create a pleasingly frustrating situation. And that's really difficult because we don't want our students to fail. But in the moment of the moment they fail, they have the best learning experience ever. And if it's not about failing, now you get a bad grade and you have to repeat the class. Of course, I'm not talking about that kind of failing, but about, oh, it just didn't work. And so, okay, what kind of way can I go now? Another way, okay, where's someone who can help me, and so on. And the third element for the structure is sequencing. So create different achievements that act at the same time like safe places, safe points. So that means that if you achieve something, If you finish something, if you solve a problem, you've solved it. No matter how bad your next task will be or grade will be, this is what you have safe. Okay, so let me give you an example. In games, it's always about progress. First we fail, but that only means that we don't progress. Okay, then we go a little step back and try again, but we don't progress. That's everything. We don't lose everything that we have learned so far, everything that we have achieved so far. In school, because we grade on average, okay, so you have got a 1. Hey, that's amazing. Okay, best grade in Germany. So you have a 1, amazing. So now there's a much more difficult exam in the second place. Okay, much more difficult. Or you have to do a much more different kind of lectures, and so it's more difficult to be good in this kind of exam. So now you get a 3. Perhaps the 3 is even the best grade of the whole class. But now together, combined, the 1 from the first exam and the 3 from the second exam, 4 divided by 2, now you have a 2. So on average, you have a 2. Perhaps the 3, as I said, was the best grade of the whole class. But you as a human only experiencing, hey, I had a 1, now I have a 2. So I took away something, even if you were the best in the class. So you know what I mean? That's really difficult. So it's always about progress. So create these kind of save points. Okay, so recap. So principle of participation, create identity, and create individualized customization within the activity itself. Structure your material by thinking about problem solving. So create a problem in the bigger context. Sequencing, create these kind of save points, because if you have achieved a save point, it's much more easier for you to go out for the next challenge, because you always have your comfort zone, the last save point, okay, that saves you. And make it pleasingly frustrating. The third one for structuring. There are more, but I think for the beginning, these are okay. Bonus tip, think about cliffhangers. How to create cliffhangers within your learning material, perhaps even within your day. So if people are leaving and you let them leave with a cliffhanger, a little bit more interesting to come back the next time. And how to trigger people to get started to learning, to get started to learn something, peer-to-peer, yeah? Help them to help someone else, curiosity, wondering, and meaning. Okay, so where we really can help to the humankind to survive, whatever. It depends on the target group and how to do that. Okay, so far, first video. It's I don't know who was really able to watch it until for the last 25 minutes, but amazing. And you see, we only scratched the surface. We will go deeper into the topic. Thanks for asking the question. I know it's not an easy stuff, and I'm sorry I don't have an easy solution to that, but it really works, believe me. I'm also teaching at universities, and sometimes I'm trying some of these materials, some of these approaches. Yeah, so far, we will take another video to go even deeper a little bit. Let me know what you think about that. If you like the video, give it a thumb up. Please subscribe to the channel so that you stay up to date if we have new stuff are coming around. And I really, really, really would love to hear your thoughts about that, your comments, and the next questions, so that we can really try to solve all that, yeah, bigger context. Bye.